Good evening. I'd like to call the Town of Rocky Hill Open Space and Conservation Commission regular meeting of Wednesday, February 8th, 2023 to order. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to start off this evening by introducing David Palmberg, who has taken over as the town liaison to Open Space and Conservation Commission. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
We look forward to working with you. Okay. All right. Do we have anybody from the public who would like to say anything that is in regards to anything that is not on the agenda for tonight? Okay, hearing none. Okay, applications for permits. A, Vessel RE Holdings LLC, proposed 5-story residential building, driveway, parking and area, landscaping, utilities, lighting, and stormwater management located at 2369 Main Street, Assessor's ID number 10-080. Can I get a motion?
I'll make one, Madam. Madam Chair, following review of the public hearings records on October 12th, 2022, December 14th, 2022, January 11th of 2023, based on presentations by the applicant, SLR peer report, I make the following motion. I move to deny the applicant for the Class C permit from Vessel RE Holding LLC, proposed 5-story residential building, driveway, parking area, landscaping, utilities, lighting, stormwater management, located at 2369 Main Street. Assessor's ID 10-080, based on sections 8.4, 8.5, 8.6, and section 9 of the Town of Rocky Hill Inland Wetlands Watercourse Regulations. More specifically, per section 8.4A, environmental impact of the proposed regulated activities on the wetlands and watercourses. The activities proposed will have a negative adverse impact since existing on-site wetlands will reduce in size and some would be even filled in. Number 2, per section 8.4B, the applicants proposed for and any feasible and prudent alternatives to the proposed regulated activities, which alternatives would exist which cause less or no environmental impact to the wetland and watercourses. Based on the record during their presentation, the applicants did not satisfactorily provide prudent and feasible alternatives that could have potentially reduced or eliminated need for the direct wetland impacts. Number 3, per section 8.4D, irreversible or irretrievable loss of wetlands or watercourse resources which would be caused by the proposed regulated activities, including the extent to which such activities would foreclose any future ability to protect, enhance, or restore such resources, and any mitigation measures which may be considered as a condition to issue the permit. Such activities include, but not limited to, measures to 1, prevent or minimize pollution or other environmental damage. Number 2, maintain or enhance existing environmental quality. Or 3, in the following order priority, restore, enhance, create productive wetlands or watercourse resources. Based on the proposal, once existing wetlands are filled in or disturbed, they will no longer have the ability to prevent pollution upstream or downstream of the development. Number 4, per section 8.5, a permit should not be issued since other prudent and feasible alternatives do exist, but none were presented. Number 5, per section 8.6 and 9.3, one of the prudent and feasible alternatives is to reduce the scope of the proposal by reducing the size of the building and reducing parking. That would allow no wetland disturbance. Number 6, per section 9.1, based on the public hearing record, the proposal as shown will not prevent or minimize pollution or enhance, maintain water quality. Filling in most of the on-site wetlands and watercourses will have an adverse effect. And lastly, per Section 8, consideration of 8.1A, public comment has been taken into consideration. In summary, the town of Wetland has lost vast amounts of wetlands prior to the adoption of Clean Water Act 50 years ago. Even a small pocket such as this one that would be impacted provides such functions as cleansing pollutants from our everyday lives. We should take a stand and enhance all wetlands. This means sound and smart development as long as it doesn't expense as our natural resources.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Whalen. Do I have a second, please?
Madam Chair, I would like to second the motion.
Okay. Okay, I have a second. Do we have discussion going around? Nope. Commissioner Stevens? Do you have anything? We'll
Yeah.
go around.
Okay.
Madam Chairwoman, before Commissioner Stevens speaks, can you
Yes.
let us know who will be voting on this?
Correct, yes, I'm sorry. So we will have all of our regular commissioners voting. That will be Commissioner Stevens, Commissioner Brown, Vice Chair Whalen, myself, Secretary Kelly, Commissioner O'Connor, and yourself, Commissioner Schweitzer. Okay.
Okay. So just so everybody knows, I welcome the new wetland enforcement officer there, Dave. And just want to let everybody know a little bit of my background, my professional background. I'm a registered professional soil scientist with the Society of Soil Scientists of Southern New England. I have a master's degree in environmental science from the University of New Haven, and I've been on this commission, I think, since 2012. And I've also completed the DEP's comprehensive training course for the wetlands commissioners. I have several concerns with this proposed application. I feel that, though, it's my professional opinion that there be direct wetland and watercourse impacts, and there'll be negative adverse effects on them as a result of the proposed development if it was approved. It's been in all the testimony. I'm not going to add anything new, but there's a few hundred square feet of wetlands that were previously flagged by REMA Environmental in 2015, which are not shown on the current plans, and I believe that those additional wetlands do exist. Also, there is ponding that would likely occur. There's another, besides the so-called drainage swale, which is now considered an intermittent watercourse, but there's also a second intermittent watercourse channel that I believe exists on the property closer to the OC restaurant site. And I've seen standing water and flowing water for prolonged periods of time after rainstorm events, and there's a permanent defined channel, so I believe that also constitutes as an intermittent watercourse, and it's not shown on the plans. And if those 10 parking lot spaces were basically, if that whole area was filled in and those 10 parking lot spaces were put in, I think there would be flooding that would occur on the OC property site that likely doesn't occur now. I'd like to go back a little bit and discuss my qualifications a little bit more. Since 1987, I've worked with Soil Science Environmental Services. We were formerly in Cheshire, and now I'm located in Rocky Hill. I'm the president of the company and a co-owner. I've worked in the past with about 5 or 6 different soil scientists. Several of them have now gone on to their own, and they have their own firms. I've also worked with about 4 or 5 different biologists. I've probably delineated well over 1,000 wetlands in Connecticut. The firm in total has probably delineated over 20,000 wetlands. Most of my training was with Tom Petrus and my father, Ken Stevens, who are very well-respected consultants, and they're now either passed on or have retired. Our firm with Soil Science Environmental Services has also mapped wetlands and watercourses with several different municipalities for actually working for the towns. and those include the towns of Cheshire, Bloomfield, Simsbury, Westport, Middletown, Cromwell, and even in Rocky Hill. I believe we mapped the wetlands for the town of Rocky Hill in the late 80s or 1990s. So that's pretty much a lot of my experience. Also, like I said, I gave my resume to Dave, so he has that. So there's more information on that. During my review of this proposed project, I spent most of my time trying to get the applicant to properly identify all the wetlands and watercourses on the property. I had mentioned that there's a soil type called, it's number 109, Fluviquince Udafluvens, which is a floodplain soil type. So that can range anywhere from like a well-drained soil to a poorly drained soil, and I think that may pertain to some areas on this site where likely that flooding occurs. That would be the areas where there may be additional wetlands that weren't flagged as part of this property. Since basically the beginning of this application process, I believe that there's more wetlands and watercourses on the site than are shown on the plans, including both the intermittent watercourses on and off the site, along with additional wetlands that I believe exist in the watercourse channel that was formerly called the drainage swale by the applicant. The applicant has shown no formal feasible or prudent alternative plans to our commission, but instead wants to adversely impact both the wetlands and watercourses on site and possibly off-site to accommodate their proposed development plan. Not only have I disagreed with the impacts associated with the project, I have consistently questioned the wetland delineation and the two intermittent watercourses that exist on site. The applicant is proposing to fill in I think it's about 80-something feet of intermittent watercourse, or possibly even some wetlands for the 10 parking lot spaces on site, and also block the flow, like I said, of the additional watercourse that flows onto the site. Is shown on that's shown on the MDC map, and I've submitted that. I think the first public hearing we had, I showed that map with that additional watercourse, and still nobody's even gone to inspect it. And then we recently, I think it was the last hearing, the town submitted to our commission a survey map that shows that swale, and apparently it does exist on this application site. I've observed, like I said, flowing water and standing water in the second intermittent watercourse channel on a few different occasions, and I believe this other permanent defined channel would qualify as a regular intermittent watercourse. And then my last kind of feelings on the whole thing is over 90% of the site exists within our 100-foot upland review area. Most commissions would like to see a 50 to 100-foot undisturbed buffer be maintained within proposed developments, typically a minimum of 25 feet. It's my professional opinion, should be maintained if proper mitigation is being offered. And even the Federal Army Corps normally would require 2 or 3 to 1 mitigation. That would be recommended by the federal agencies for wetland impacts associated with proposed developments. We don't have that on this site. I don't even think it's even 1-to-1 mitigation. And then the mitigation that is being proposed is within the buffer to the existing wetlands. And those areas will be impacted by the proposed development, and then much of the mitigation proposed with this project would occur within, like I say, the current wetland buffer that would be impacted during development, and I don't think that the proposed mitigation is sufficient for the adverse impacts that would occur as a result of the proposed development if it was passed.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to backtrack a little bit onto what the mission of the Inland Wetland Commission is, and this is from the town of Rocky Hill, the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Regulations. Section 1.1, the inland wetlands and watercourses of the state of Connecticut are an indispensable and irreplaceable but fragile natural resource in which the citizens of the state have been endowed. It is therefore the purpose of these regulations to protect the citizens of the state by making provisions for protecting, preserving, maintenance, and use of inland wetlands and watercourses by minimizing their disturbance and pollution, maintaining and improving water quality in accordance with the highest standards set by federal, state, and local authority. And Section 1.5, the Rocky Hill Open Space and Conservation Commission shall enforce the Inland and Wetlands Watercourse Act and shall issue with terms, conditions, limitations, modify, or deny permits. I'd just like to say nowhere in our mission does it say that we are here for high-quality wetlands, large wetlands, small wetlands, low-functioning wetlands. We are here for the wetlands. Our considerations for decision, the application, its supporting documentation, public comments, evidence, and testimony from a public hearing, all relevant facts and circumstances as they affect the inland wetlands and watercourses. Basically, we have to listen to the public. From the Connecticut Department of Energy Environmental Protection being an intervener, pursuant to Section 22A-19 of the Connecticut General Statutes. This statute allows any person to intervene as a party in the administration proceedings by filing a verified pleading that claims the proposal of proceedings involves conduct which has or reasonably likely to have an effect of unreasonable pollution, impairing or destroying the public trust in the water, in the air, water, or other natural resources. For me, this project is breaking the public trust. People have spoken against this application. As far as the proposed 100-foot upland review area, from the Connecticut Wetlands Law dated website dated Tuesday, August 31st, 2010, buffers or upland review areas. On the previous Monday, the Connecticut Law Tribune published an editorial endorsing a legislative initiative to create a 100-foot mandatory no-activity buffer zone from wetlands and watercourses. If that passed, this application would never have been granted in the first place. It's important to remember this is not a law, but it really is a good guideline. The applicant at one point said that they were improving the wetlands. I asked what the improvement was, and the response was that it would be less flooding in 100-year events. That would add value to the abutting owner's pavement. That's an improvement on the wetlands for the landowners. That is not necessarily an improvement to the wetland. I'm on the site map EHX-1 dated 12/13/2022 that shows the change in the 100-foot buffer. As far as what happens when you pave, this project is paving the majority of the 100-foot upland review area with an impervious surface. This is from Wikipedia. The pavement materials seal the soil surface, eliminating rainwater infiltration and natural groundwater recharge. Impervious surfaces also collect solar heat in their dense mass. When the heat is released, it raises air temperature, produces urban heat islands, and increasing energy consumption in buildings. The warm runoff from impervious surfaces reduces dissolved oxygen in stream water, making life difficult in aquatic ecosystems. Impervious pavement deprives tree roots of aeration, eliminating the urban forest and the canopy shade that would otherwise moderate urban climate. Because impervious surfaces displace living vegetation, they reduce ecological productivity and interrupt atmospheric carbon cycling. Basically, you pave something, you have killed it. There is no life under the pavement, and this is the 100-foot upland review area that's there as a buffer to the wetlands. It also states, we've talked about alternative proposals. I can give a very succinct alternative proposal. You don't own, the applicant does not own this land. They're coming to us to get permission to build on this land. The prudent alternative, don't buy the land. There are other lots on Main Street that have businesses that are, well, empty buildings. And one last thing, this has to do with hardships. We recently had a case before this commission of one lot wanting to be divided into two lots. There was a wetlands in back, and there's a zoning setback from the front of a property line, and the house couldn't come closer. And we said, well, you're at the wetlands, see if zoning will let you move closer. Zoning said you cannot create a hardship onto yourself, as in you cannot say, well, I want to split the land, but now I need another waiver to build closer to the land. You're making your own hardship coming to us saying, you want to build on this piece of property. This is the wrong piece of property for this process. Thank you.
Okay, I'm skipping you. Secretary Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First, I would like to acknowledge that the applicant has spent a great amount of time presenting, updating, addressing the Commission's concerns, and that's appreciated. However, the applicant has agreed that almost 100% of the site is in the upland review area. With 72 to 79%, the exact percentage was never agreed upon in discussions. 72 to 79% to be covered by impervious surface, and we just got a mild lesson on impervious surface. But wildlife that directly depends on the wetlands and watercourse and this upland review area, which will now be paved, will be affected, and that is an adverse impact. And that's all I'll add to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner O'Connor.
Thank you. Sorry. I'd like to state for the record that I have watched the most recent meeting that I was unable to attend, so I'm up to speed.
Thank you.
With that, as everyone I'm sure is aware, the hierarchy when considering impacts to wetlands that we're guided by is, first of all, starting with avoidance of impacts, then minimization of impacts if we can't avoid, and then you get into compensatory mitigation. Re-avoidance. We have been told that there was no practical alternative to the developer in minimizing the impacts of the project, but there was no evidence that's been provided that there is not a practical alternative to the cause that this commission is concerned with. Regarding the minimization of impacts and therefore compensatory mitigation, permanent impacts are shown as 220 square feet, with only 101 square feet of wetland creation occurring. As you've heard previously, this is in an area that is adjacent to stone mulch and to the parking lot area that is going to be paved. So that just brings into question the function of that wetland that's being created. And then in all of this, there's no mention made of the permanent impact square footage to the 86 feet of intermittent watercourse being paved over by the parking spaces. So with that, the math just isn't adding up for me to sufficiently demonstrate that there are no adverse impacts to the wetland. Thank you.
Commissioner Schweitzer.
All right. I agree with and will be supporting the motion and the reasons as stated by Vice Chair Whalen. As a registered professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, I have concerns with the drainage out there. With the 3 submissions we've had, it's resulted in 3 iterations. The volume of the underground storage has never changed, but yet with the last submission, the footprint of the existing underground storage nearly doubled in size. And also, I have concerns at the interface where the head walls are, which is at the interface of the drainage system with the existing wetlands. The grading is not shown properly, in my opinion, and although questioned on this, there were no changes made to this, so that still exists. I also have concerns with the mitigation ratio. Having served on this commission for over a decade, anytime there have been wetland impacts, we've always received a mitigation ratio of 2 to 1 or better. On this project, we'll be getting less than 1. And then also with the alternatives, this commission has asked for the other alternatives to be submitted so that we could review them, and none were ever submitted.
Okay, thank you. All right, I just have a brief statement. This project will result in 220 square feet of direct permanent wetlands impact, 560 square feet of temporary wetlands impact, which includes grading the wetland and changing its original elevation, 86 linear feet of direct impact to an intermittent stream. The mitigation proposed includes 101 square feet of wetland creation along the graded wetland edge close to the parking lot, and wetland enhancements of 727 square feet from the removal of invasives and plantings. A wetland creation area is proposed to compensate for the wetland's impact. However, it is only 101 square feet, while the direct impact is, again, 220 square feet. And along the graded wetland edge closest to the parking lot. And there will not be much separation between the wetland and the development, only a small 4-foot wide strip of planted shrubs, and then stone mulch will be provided. Further, Mr. Logan, the developer's wetland soil scientist, stated himself that there will be a net loss of 120 square feet of wetlands. Therefore, this is providing less than, as Commissioner Schweitzer acknowledged, less than a 1-to-1 compensation for the permanent loss of wetlands. And according to Section 1.1, the title and authority of the Rocky Hill Conservation Commission, the protection, preservation, maintenance, and the use of inland wetlands and watercourses by minimizing their disturbance is a key part of the Rocky Hill Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Regulations. Further, the Rocky Hill Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Regulations defines a significant impact activity as any activity which damages or destroys unique wetland or watercourse areas or such areas having demonstrable scientific or educational value. This wetland may not be large and is surrounded, but it is a very important wetlands. In summary, the paving over an intermittent stream and putting it in a pipe underground, as well as paving over 220 square feet of wetlands for a parking lot, can be considered damage to an existing wetlands. The proposed mitigation is lacking and does not appear to fully compensate for the proposed impacts. Therefore, the proposed impacts are adverse, and in accordance with the Rocky Hill Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Regulations, the project can be considered a significant impact activity. Okay. Does anybody have anything else to say? Any other commissioners have anything else? Okay. Let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of the motion to deny the application, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay, the motion has passed. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go on to item B. For this item, or Secretary Kelly is going to be recusing herself. Okay, and in her place, we will have Commissioner Kaplan go ahead and vote in her place on this one. All right, this is item B, Town of Rocky Hill, care of Raven Carpentino, Town Manager, proposed remediation of contaminated soil and redevelopment into open space with barn pad site, gravel driveway, and gravel parking lot located at 374 New Branton Avenue, former Straska's Farm. Can I see who's going to be speaking on behalf of the town, I guess? Please step up and just state your name, please, for the record.
Hi, John Yike of Zuvik, on behalf of the town.
Okay. All right, and we did go ahead and there were no revisions made at all to any of the plans from the last meeting, correct?
There was actually one slight revision made. If you see on the screen here, do you guys have this on your screen right now?
Okay.
We do.
We were asked to basically make the most down gradient point of the silt fence here to be more robust. So basically, we added a second layer of silt fence.
Okay.
That was the one request that was made last meeting, and that's what we did.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant concerning that? Nope. Okay. Can I get a motion, please?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion that we accept the permit, application for permit, Town of Rocky Hill, care of Raymond Carpentino, Town Manager, proposed remediation of contaminated soil and redevelopment into open space with barn, pad site, gravel driveway, and gravel parking lot at 374 New Britain Ave, former Strauska's Farm. I make a motion that we approve as just seen.
Okay. Second? Okay. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nope. Okay, passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now as Secretary Kelly makes her way back, I do have to say that Commissioner Stevens is going to be recusing himself for this one, and in his place, I'm going to have Commissioner Kurz vote in his place. Thank you. Okay, we have Joseph Moruzzi, JMM Properties LLC, removal of existing hard surfaces, curbing and pavement for creation of outdoor recreation area located at 1344, 1360, and 1352 Celestine Highway. Assessor's ID number 01-001 and 01-002. Please state your name.
Kevin Hickson with BL Companies, 355 Research Parkway, Meriden, Connecticut. So tonight, we're proposing a site modification. It's really focused on, if you're looking at the screen here, I don't know how to, it's 1344 South State Highway, Route 99. And on the existing property is a Wendy's and then an existing office building that's 52,000 square feet of office space. On 3 floors. 2 of the floors are parking, ground level parking, second floor is parking, and up above is office spaces. And what we're proposing in this application is the upland review area, the 100-foot buffer upland review area approximately has, I don't know if I can get to the site plan or the survey. It's actually the plan sheet. Yep. Go. If you can go to the second sheet there. So we've performed a ALTA survey that this shows the existing conditions of both the Wendy's and the office building. The total property for this is 2.69 acres. The Wendy's and the office building are on 2.12 acres, and then the parcel 3, which is just the eastern northeast corner of the property, it's bisected by Eversource power lines that go through the property. That's the remaining portion of 0.57 acres. It's located on the easterly side of Route 99, just south of the Westfield Town Line, and opposite a Town Line Road with a signalized intersection. The parcel is located in a flood hazard area, AE, 29 feet and 28.8, as indicated in the plan, which you can, up at the northeast corner, there's Zone X and Zone E, which kind of goes into the Eversource easement. But the majority of the property, including the office building, will be in that Zone AE. If you look at the existing plan here, there is wetlands down at the eastern side that's just off our property. It's with the Interstate 91 with the DOT, and that 100-foot buffer comes into it at 0.69 acres of upland review area, and currently in its state right now, 80% of it is impervious with pavement and parking, and it's an existing state. Can we go to the site plan, please? So this is the proposed site plan of, basically, the project will disturb 0.051 acres in the 100-foot buffer, the upland review area out of the 0.69 acres, as I had mentioned. And the proposed improvements will take that impervious cover of 80% and reduce that down to 59% with a outdoor recreation area. Basically, we're going to be taking and removing the disturbance within the 100-foot buffer areas, removing the pavement and the bituminous curbing within that 100-foot buffer area. That'll get us down in impervious area to 59%, a 21% reduction, going from 0.54 to 0.41 acres of impervious area. The proposed improvements are really centered in that area. There are other areas on the site up at the northwest area that is more of an outdoor recreation area. Again, the parking spaces will be reduced overall on this site. Approximately 101 spaces will be reduced. Part of that is in the parking garage, and the rest of it is on the site. Approximately 28 spaces within the 100-foot buffer area will be removed from this upland review area. Can we go to the next slide, please? So we have a grading and drainage and utilities plan. The only area of minor grading within that 100-foot buffer area down at the south easterly corner in that recreational area. And then we do have a replacement of a catch basin to a manhole cover up in the northwest corner, kind of in that other second outdoor space area that's outside of that buffer. Can we go to the next slide? We have a erosion control plan. The soil is urban land, which will be occurring throughout the 100-foot buffer here, as indicated on this EC plan, erosion control plan. And we've provided anti-tracking apron, as well as silt fence and other measures that comply with the deep requirements. Can we go to the next slide? One more after that. And we have provided the details as shown here for the erosion control measures during construction. Can we go to the next slide? And here's the landscape plan where we're adding, I believe it's 9 trees. 3 of them will be within that buffer area. We are preserving the trees that are on the site as well, as indicated on the plan. But we're also adding some additional shrubs and perennials as outlined in the schedule there. And we've also provided a vegetation coverage as well for each of the parcels. Can we go to the next slide? This area is actually the northwest corner of the area. It just has a little bit more detail as provided. But again, we'll be reducing the parking area, removing the pavement, and bringing the overall impervious area reduction to the site. So we would request that the if the request to the board is to make a determination of a Class B permit regulated activity with no significant impact on the regulated area. And I would open it up for any questions from the commission.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Zampino, any questions?
I don't have any at the moment.
No? Commissioner Kurz?
I do, but I'd like to ask if you could come back to me. Can you please come back to me? I'm formulating my question.
Sure. Commissioner Brown?
Just a real easy question, because it's noted in the MOM for permitting purposes only, not released for construction. There's not really going to be any changes to what you do for construction.
No.
Right.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, I fully understand, but I just wanted on the record.
Yep.
Thanks. No other questions.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Whalen?
How deep are you going to be digging to remove your pavement area out there?
the asphalt. I believe it's 3 inches on 6 inches of process out there currently, just based on the what we've found out there.
Are you bringing any other materials in?
We would probably be bringing in topsoil just to make sure that we can establish the vegetation.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Secretary Kelly.
Yes, thank you. I have a few questions. With the surface that you're removing, are you stockpiling it, or are you removing it daily?
I believe we are going to be, if we can go to the EC sheet, we will have a stockpile area, but given the fact that it's, in my opinion, it's actually, you could go to the EC sheet, please. Go down a couple of sheets. Right there. Oh, go back. Yeah, so we're not actually proposing any stockpile within the buffer area, so it would be removed out there. It is a smaller area, if you will, that can be removed and wouldn't be, and we're not proposing to have any stockpile on the site and on the E&S plan right now.
You're not going to stockpile it on the site?
Correct.
So you're going to dig it up, remove it, and stockpile
That's
it
correct.
elsewhere? Okay, also, what is going to be in the recreation area? I see a mailbox center and a patio. Is that basically it, as far as hardscape?
There's actually two. That's out of the buffer area, the one in the northwest corner. Let me get to the, yep. If you go to the LL2, that's shown there, that's of the northeast, that's out of the buffer. That has the hardscape of the patio, the mail center, some plantings in there, obviously a loading area as well, but that's within the existing parking lot that they're going to modify. The other area that actually is within the buffer area is just going to be, if we can go to LL1, which is the sheet before. That's down in the south easterly corner, and that will be planted with grass, and I think there's 3 trees that are going there. There are some existing trees that we're keeping. There's one that's just north of that within the buffer, but there'll be 3 trees that get planted in that area.
You're not constructing anything in there, or
No.
are you putting in benches, or?
Nope.
It's just grass and trees?
Yep.
What a lovely concept. Okay, I'm fine, thank you.
Commissioner Kaplan.
Can you just, it's a little understand, could you just go over the ultimate project here and then exactly what is going on in the
Yeah.
100-foot buffer? Yeah.
So that office building, I think that everybody can see from whatever direction they're coming from. They're going to take the top floor and keep that office. As you go down to the 4th and the 3rd floor, those are actually going to be, they're going to convert those floors to basically residential apartments. And then as you get to the 2nd floor, also apartments, but there'll be a fitness center in there and, a couple other items. So that's where the actual parking garage is as it is today. So they're just removing all that parking on that level and converting that. And then the ground level remains as the parking area. And I believe it's getting just reconfigured a little bit within but nothing, we're not expanding the building. Obviously, the ramp that comes into the 2nd level, we would be removing that. But we're not expanding the building or adding the footprint to it.
And then in the buffer, you're essentially, where exactly are you removing the pavement? Just in this grade area here?
Yeah, actually, if you go to the demo plan, it might give you a better idea, which is DM1, which is at the beginning. One more. There, right there. So this gives you a better context, right? It shows the existing parking spaces. I believe there's 28 of them.
Okay.
That would be removed out of there.
Okay.
And then, obviously making that provision to provide a planting area.
Okay, so not the entire gray area, that's just showing the parcel in the buffer?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
That's where I was a little confused. Okay. And then can you go to the landscaping plan?
Yeah, LL1?
Yes, LL1.
Yep.
I just want to confirm, if you could confirm with me that the trees that are being planted on site, is there any way to confirm that they're native?
That they're what?
Native.
Yeah, let's see that.
When you get these, what do you call it, cultivars, sometimes they tend to not be like the London plane tree, I'm not sure. that one is. I'd have to double check that one as a.
Yeah, we can double check, and we would be certainly amenable to native species.
Yeah.
So not a problem to make that substitution.
And then, in terms of, you said that the entire site is in the floodplain or AE?
It's, as far as the floodplain, I would say 80% of it is.
And are you proposing, it sounds like you're not necessarily proposing any additional fill in the.
No, we would be, I mean, there's minor grading, because you got to bring that, that different material in, and we do have some contours on there. It's a 28 and a 29. There's a little bit of a shift there, but no, we're not proposing to bring any fill.
That's all my questions.
Okay. Commissioner O'Connor?
The only question I have, so you are reducing impervious cover, but what's your plan for snow storage for, when the driveway that's going to remain is to be plowed?
Mean the driveway at the signal, or
Is there driveway at the top still? Is there a band that goes around the north side of the parcel? Or is that all going to be grass?
I know, is that parcel 3 or?
So, but where you have the patio and the mail center, there's still a drive, an aisle on the top side of that?
To the north.
Looking at the north.
What is that, the Eversource right away? Right
There's an Eversource that bisects the parcel 3 and parcel 1 and parcel 2. So there is an Eversource power line that goes through that. They are removing those parking spaces up in that area and converted that to a pervious area. So, but that's out of the upland area.
Okay.
But your access drives along the north property line to get to the back building? I believe that's what Commissioner O'Connor's asking.
Maybe come over here and she could point it to you.
Yes. Didn't mean to create such a kerfuffle, but, so I'm just saying, this remains, right? And that's
Yes.
gonna be paved
Yes.
still, and so this is all,
Yep,
that all
remains pavement.
so-
And then this is the area of the enhancement for the
Right,
outdoor area,
right.
with has some hardscape in there.
okay, and so when, for snow storage, in this, for all of the snow that would fall here, are you planning on storing it?
Oh, snow storage.
Yes.
There is a loading area here, but I don't think we would be storing the
you
snow on
carting
the
off?
site. I think we would have to cart it off,
Okay.
just based on the
Size,
existing
the-
development.
I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Schweitzer?
All right. All right, I'll ask the same that I asked of a previous applicant. Can you double up the silt fence along the wetland
Yes.
line? Okay. Can you go back over the building configuration again? Because as I'm reading this, it says the ground level is parking, lounge, laundry, and fitness. 2, 3, and 4 are all residential, and the 5th floor remains business?
5th floor is office. Ground level, I thought it was.
I'm just reading here on LL1, it's
Yeah,
reading,
there's part of that ground floor that would have a fitness. There's also some bike racks that they would add there within the underground area.
So
Or the first floor level.
okay, so the drive-through under the building is going away?
Yes. You
Okay.
would still have access, though, I mean, for
For
going
some
in and
part-
out
okay.
with the parking spaces that they would, that would be in the proposed condition.
Okay. Is the drainage system on site adequate?
Yes.
Okay. Where do the roof drains go to?
If you can go to the,
You can just answer me. I mean, if they're into
Yeah.
the drainage system, or,
no, they enter the drainage system.
that's all I need to know. I don't need to see where.
Okay.
And then the outlet protection for anything that's going out there, the existing outlet protection on any pipes going out, is that adequate as it stands right now? Is it in good shape, or can that be reviewed and see if it
We
needs to
can
be
review
upgraded
that.
or dressed
We
up?
can review that for sure.
Okay. And I just appreciate that this project is taking away impervious pavement, so.
And reusing an existing building, that's great.
Yeah, recycling.
Thought everybody would like that.
I just-
Commissioner Kearse?
A couple of things. I wanted to just reiterate that I agree with Commissioner Schweitzer that would like to see that extra silk fence. I actually drove up there real quick.
Yep.
I don't remember what day it was, but there's, it's a significant drop. There's also, I wanted to ask, I assume that you'll be cleaning up there's a lot of debris, garbage,
Yes.
plastic garbage, and I see you're installing a chain fence. Is that correct? Around that same area, sort of where it dips down and,
There's already an existing chain link fence
Oh.
that's down there.
okay.
So we can definitely, clean up that whole, because it is like a 10 to 12
It's a big drop, and
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what's under there. I just saw what was, on the edge, and it was quite accumulated.
Yeah, we can certainly add that to the plans to clean
Okay.
up the debris along there.
Yes, and I'm just curious, I was curious about that. I thought you were installing a fence. Okay. And I just wanted to confirm that the maple, cherry, and dogwood trees are going to remain. All the trees, those marked? Okay.
Yep.
And I want to understand the seeding you're putting down, and when you seed, the kind of,
I mean, for the grass area
yes,
of that?
yeah, just curious.
I don't know if we can go to the EC sheet. Actually, you can go back to LL1. I can, oh. It's the lawn seed, so if you go to LL2.
Yeah.
I believe we spec that out on, the seed mix notes down in the the
Oh.
left-hand corner.
Okay.
It has a lawn seeding mix, 15% perennial ryegrass, 25% pine weed, creeping fescue, and then 60% Kentucky bluegrass. And then it gives you the seeding rates that are there, and then the timing, obviously.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, you're right. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Just real quick, a follow-up to Commissioner Kaplan. The Acer rubrum, the red maple that you're talking about, it's also referred to as a swamp maple, and it's widespread in eastern and central U.S. However, red maple can be considered weedy or invasive. So even though
Red
it's,
maple is a very native plant and
Yeah.
it's found everywhere. I don't think it's weedy. Do you?
well, I'm just reading off of,
No, I think it's fine.
okay.
Yeah, no, it's.
Because I was going to make a pitch for Princeton elms, because I have a couple in my backyard that I planted, but if she's good with it, I'm not.
Well, we're gonna double check the
Yeah,
species and make
well,
sure
there's
that.
the other plantings too, but,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's just, a basic red maple is fine.
Okay,
And
I'm
it,
done.
makes those helicopters.
Norway maples, yeah.
Red maple station.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Can I get a motion, please?
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to table the application for permit for Joseph Maruzzi, JMM Properties LLC, construction of parking area, I'm sorry, I skipped a
Wrong
line.
one.
JMM Properties LLC, removal of existing hard surfaces, curbing and pavement, for creation of outdoor recreation area located at 1344, 1360, 1352 Silestein Highway, Assessor's ID number 01-001 and 01-002.
Okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We're going to go ahead and table to the next meeting, which will be March,
Should be the same.
which is it the same?
Yeah, because it's.
Yep, March 8th. Thank you. Actually, I have one question. Staff, do we need to notify Weathersfield of this also, considering the proximity on the line?
Yes, well, the activity's not within 500 feet, but we can notify them as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all right, now we have item D, Brook Street, Rocky Hill LLC, construction of parking area, portion of building, retaining wall, level spreader, and grading located at 553, 565, and 595 Brook Street. Assessor's ID number 17-004, 17-005, and 16-278. And we are back, Commissioner Stevens is back for this item. Organize first.
Okay, is that working on your screens?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. For the record, my name is Jim Cassidy, professional engineer and principal with the firm of Hallisey, Pearson and Cassidy, and I'm here tonight representing the property owners of a piece of land located at 553, 565, and 595 Brook Street. Also with me this evening is Matt Davison of Matt Davison Environmental, who did our wetlands delineation on this site. Excuse me one second here. Not used to your new system here, so.
You want me to open and we can share?
No, yeah, I'm good, thanks.
All right.
You know?
Okay. Okay, here we go. A little lag time there. So start off a little bit about the site itself. What we're ultimately proposing to do is the owner would like to develop this site with 5 new buildings that would be a light manufacturing, industrial, or commercial warehousing type use. There's no specific tenant right now. He's looking to build this on speculation. In total, we're looking at building a total of 5 buildings with a total area of 120,000 square feet. The site itself, the first page I have up is an existing condition survey. The site itself is zoned OP, Office Park Zone. It has a total area consisting of all 3 parcels of 13.37 acres. Along Brook Street on the bottom, we have 179 feet of frontage. There's an existing house located on the parcel known as 553 Brook Street, which is your bottom right corner or your southeast corner of the site. It's a 2-story residence, and there's a large detached garage to the rear of the property. See if I can. This is an aerial photo of the overall piece. The remaining portion of the property is a former nursery. There's a series of rows of evergreens that are kind of overgrown at this point, have not been maintained in a long period of time. The overall property itself, outlined in yellow, again, is about 13.37 acres. To the left, there's actually a 100-foot strip of land that's owned by CLMP. There's some power lines that are actually running through that portion of the property, so that's on your left or your west-hand side. On the upper portion, to the north, there is a vacant lot, and then there's also the new orthopedic building that's built in the corporate park. That's off on the north. And then off on the north, you'll also notice that there is a wetlands area. This is taken off the town GIS, and Matt Davison also delineated the wetlands, which shows on our survey, associated with Dividend Brook that runs along the north portion of the property. And I'll have Matt talk a little bit about that. The red line on the north side of the property would be the 100-foot upland review line from that wetlands. Off to the right or to the east would be the former Student Loan Foundation building, or the also former Creek School, which is presently vacant, and that's off to the right-hand side. And on the bottom, obviously, is Brook Street, and as we all know, directly across from this is the Burrs facility. The topography of this site, if you were to walk out there, I would say the grades are gentle for the majority of it, sloping from the south along Brook Street in a northerly direction down towards the wetlands. Until you get to the far back, the grade drops off, so steeper to moderate. The overall grades change from about elevation 152 along Brook Street down to about 129 along the watercourse. The soils on the site, I've done a series of test pits, and even on the soil surveys, it indicates the soils as being a Manchester gravel sand and also a Hartford sandy loam. We did several test pits as part of our stormwater management design of this project, and also had some permeability tests done. And it is a very nice, of course, sandy material with a nice infiltration rate. So it is a prime site to look at doing some stormwater management that consists of infiltration on the site, which we are proposing. Come on. The next page is our overall site layout plan. As I mentioned, what we're looking at doing is building 5 new buildings. They'll be built on spec. The 2 front buildings, which face towards Brook Street, have a footprint of 30,000 square foot each. There would be an associated parking area in front of each one of those buildings. They would be built one at a time, so they'd be phased out. We're not going to do all the development at one time. It's going to depend upon what the market will bear as to the number of buildings that actually get built at one period of time. But the anticipation is to build the front 2 buildings first. With that associated parking. There'd be 2 site access drives, one on the far left or to the west. If you were to go out there today, there's actually an existing curb cut in that area that goes into the field on that portion of the property. And then there's another one off on the far east, directly opposite the driveway for the Burrs facility. This provides access not only around all the buildings, but in addition to the front parking area. After the front 2 buildings are built, we're looking at 3 additional buildings. Each one of those running in a north-south direction has a footprint of 20,000 square feet. These buildings, again, we're perspective is some kind of like almost a warehouse type use, for small warehouse use. We've had people reach out to us for such things as cross fitness facilities, and those type of uses, but there's nothing specific yet. The client is basically a developer who builds things on speculation that he'd be able to get tenants for it, but so there's no specific user yet. In total, right now, we're looking at about a total of about 250 parking spaces. We tried to split up these spaces throughout the site, so there's adequate parking in front of each one of the buildings as they're built, and each building could stand on its own. Stormwater management, as I mentioned today, everything slopes away from Brook Street, runs down along either the lawn surface off to the west or through the evergreen trees, but eventually gets to the wetlands at the far back portion of the property. What I'm proposing to do was in the drive aisles and the parking areas have a series of catch basins to collect the stormwater from the runoff. Between the loading areas for the back 3 buildings, you'll see 2 elongated islands. We're proposing to have a stormwater infiltration swale in each one of those areas. So those parking areas and those loading areas would be able to sheet flow off into those. There's an outlet structure, a catch basin at the far north end that once it builds up to a depth of about a foot, it would discharge into that catch basin and then continue through the system that runs along the far north part of the property. At the northwest corner, you see a light blue triangular area. As I mentioned, we've done a series of soil tests in this area. It's all sand and gravel. We're proposing to build an infiltration basin in that area. The infiltration basin is designed twofold. Number one, to handle the first flush and runoff off the site, in addition to ensure that we have no increase in rate as it discharges from the site. This basin is designed so the bottom couple feet would allow the groundwater or the water collected in it to actually infiltrate back into the ground. As I mentioned, we did a series of soil tests. I believe both members of town staff here were with us when we were actually out there. We had a series of test pits about 8 feet deep, and it's sand and gravel the entire way as far as you can go. We also had samples of the soil taken. We had permeability tests run on the soil. We found the soils in this area actually have a permeability rate of about 10 inches per every hour. So it's a pretty well-drained soil as we have. So again, it's an excellent area to try to do this infiltration practice. Other utilities. There are public sewers, there is public water in the area of the site. Unfortunately for the sewers, the sewer line ends presently right at my southeasterly corner, so my bottom right corner of the property. What we're going to be doing is coming out of the manhole at that corner, coming into the site with a gravity line. The way the property will be graded is the buildings at the easterly side will actually be slightly below the road. Believe it or not, from the east to the west side of this property, there's about a 5-foot drop in grade along Brook Street. You really wouldn't notice it, but it actually drops in grade. So that first building is going to be lower. All the other buildings in the back will be around the same elevation. So what's going to actually have to happen is we're going to have a series of individual injector pumps for each one of the buildings. They'll pump up through a low force main system, which is identified as the green line on this plan, discharge up the driveway in a southerly direction until it ties into the gravity manhole that's coming off of Brook Street. Water does run in front of the entire site. We're going to bring a new main in along the westerly access drive and then running it down between the back of the buildings and that access drive. Individual services such as domestic and fire protection would be brought off that main to service each one of those buildings. So all utilities will be coming off the front, along with electric and communication will also be coming off the front and would be underground. And then again, all the storm drainage runs out the back towards that infiltration basin. This is just a blow-up of the infiltration basin, and I'm sure Matt's going to talk a little bit more about it in his presentation. We've been working on a recommendation for a seed mixture. Unfortunately, we can't plant it such as we would plant a wet bottom basin because the infiltration rate is so high. We're thinking as we plant it more as a meadow or a lawn area and maintained as such, but it won't. The area just will not support any wetlands plantings in that area. So it's going to be more of a meadow mix in that area, but I'll have Matt talk a little bit more about the basin, the bottom of the basin design. So for regulated activities along the back section of the project, as I mentioned on the original slide, the red line represents the upland review, the 100-foot upland review from the wetlands. We are proposing to have a portion of our driveway and a portion of the building within that upland review area. To reduce the amount of impact and keep away from the wetlands, what happens is along that back edge of the parking lot, if we were to grade it naturally, there would be a 2-to-1 slope from the edge of the drive aisle down towards that wetlands. And the slope is actually continuing down, so you're kind of fighting the grade. What we're proposing to do along this back section of the project is we're looking at building a retaining wall along the edge of the driveway for a length of about 292 feet. It's about at max about a 6-foot high wall. This will reduce the amount of sloping in the upland review area and then getting closer to that wetlands on the lower portion of the property. And it actually helps reduce potential impacts in the upland review area of about 4,700 square feet for the construction of that wall. So, with everything we're proposing on the site, as I mentioned, we definitely do have some regulated activities. We broke it down into 2 parts. The first one, the larger area highlighted in yellow on this plan, is an area between, at the back of buildings number 3 and 4. Again, this would be for the creation of the drive aisle, a portion of the storm drainage system, and that retaining wall. The closest point we would get to the wetlands is about 50 feet off it. In this area, we were looking at having an area in the activity in the upland review area of about 0.31 acres. In addition to, for the stormwater management basin, we are proposing an outlet on it. So it has a structure that can, with a V-notch in it, that will regulate the amount of flow out of it for water that's not allowed to infiltrate into the ground. It then discharges into a level spreader. The level spreader I typically like to use as a series of galleys where we take the concrete galleys and we actually bury the bottom 2 feet, suppress the bottom 2 feet into the ground on the downhill side, and then the upper 2 feet is allowed to be exposed with a stone pad on the outlet side of it. What this allows to happen is that when you get the water, the first portion of the water in it, that bottom 2 feet, it's allowed to recharge back into the ground, promoting groundwater recharge. Any excess water is allowed to discharge or weep out through the weep holes in the side of the galley over the stone pad, and then continue on to the adjoining wetlands as it does today. I've done this in several projects. One in this area, if you wanted to see it, is over on O'Leary Farms. The detention basin on that project has the same type of outlet, but I've done it in a lot of different projects and very successful for it. But for the construction of the detention basin, the grading of the berm, and then the outlet of the drainage system, I do have another regulated activity number 2, which would deal with another 0.1005 acres of activity in the upland review area. Clearing, other than the existing evergreens that are on the site, there's a minor amount of clearing within the upland review area. It primarily consists with the regulated activity number 1. That's the only area we're going to be clearing any of the deciduous vegetation on this property. I did not present you with a landscaping plan. One of the things that we've been still trying to work through on this particular project is trying to figure out if there's a way we could salvage any of the evergreens that are out there. We had an arborist go out and take a look at them and see if it's possible, based upon their size, to actually transplant them, and if it'd be even worth it at the end of the day, or if we're just better off getting new evergreens. We're definitely putting an evergreen border around the entire perimeter of this, then additional landscaping within the islands areas. But we're trying to work with someone to see if there's a way we could salvage some of those trees. It's a shame to have to remove them all. We'd like to reutilize them if all possible. So with that, I'm going to have Matt Davison come up and speak a little bit more about the wetlands that he found on the property. Do you know what slide you want?
What's that?
Do you know what slide you want?
Maybe just something zoomed out that shows the wetlands. Thank you, Jim. For the record, my name is Matt Davison with Davison Environmental. I am a professional soil scientist and a professional wetland scientist. I reside in Guilford, Connecticut, and I've been working as a natural resource professional in Connecticut for over 20 years now. As Jim stated, I did delineate the wetlands on the site. I delineated them in September of 2022. The wetlands are to the north of the site. Some of the wetlands are off-site to the north. I did delineate them because the upland river area does extend onto the site. And then the wetland does creep into the site about midway across the northern border. The most notable feature, of course, is Dividend Brook flows through the wetland. The wetland is forested. Dividend Brook, as it flows through there, is generally a low gradient water course. There's very little step between the water course and the adjoining wetlands. The wetland gradient tends to be low through the wetland here. It's forested throughout much of the wetland, although as you get over towards the eastern side of the wetland, it does open up, and there's it opens up into a large shrub, and emergent wetland. I did submit a wetland assessment for the record. It probably just got in today, and a few of you have probably read it.
I hadn't received it by the end of the day.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I take that back. So I did do a wetland assessment, and I'll describe to you now, if you want to take my word for it, what's in it. Essentially, this is a high-functioning wetland, so I identified 7 principal functions and values in this wetland. The wetland functions are determined by whether or not a particular, whether the wetland has the opportunity to provide a particular function. So what is the landscape position? Does it have the opportunity to provide that function? And then we also look at the physical characteristics of the wetland, and that determines the effectiveness of the wetland to provide those functions. So the fact that it's sort of a broad, gently sloping wetland, densely vegetated, it promotes a lot of what I call the water quality functions, the sediment, pollutant attenuation functions, particularly as it transitions into the emergent sections of the wetland. The fact that it's such a short step from the brook into the adjoining wetland promotes flood flow alteration functions. So it's a high-functioning wetland. What I was going to say is that I submitted, or I have completed a wetland assessment. I was intending to supplement that with a wetland impact assessment where I would describe in more detail some of the potential impacts I could see from the development on the wetlands, and then I would also provide some detailed mitigation. I do think there's a lot of opportunities here to provide some mitigation. As Jim noted, I do typically work with Jim to recommend planting schedules for like the basin here, and I have not done that yet, but we have had some discussion about it. In my next submittal, I do intend to provide more details for the basin planting. One of the things we've been doing on a lot of these developments recently is some pollinator stuff, especially here where it's already, where you already have a lot of emergent vegetation, incorporating some pollinator habitat, which you can get a lot of benefit out of smaller areas. That's about all I have for now, unless anyone has any questions.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead around. Commissioner Sampaio, do you have any
I
questions?
just had a quick question. You were talking about salvaging some trees. How many trees are we talking about?
Not really sure. I don't want to commit to it. I mean, there's hundreds out there. But again, when you get into them, they become sparse. If you walk through this one, the branches become sparse. So we got to be selective. And again, my biggest concern is the size. I recently did a project up in New Hampshire, up in Somersworth, New Hampshire. We tried to do something similar, and they ended up being so large. We committed to moving them, and it failed. So I don't want to commit to doing it if it's not going to work this time.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kurz?
So you talked about the phased approach for these, construction. Kind of just curious, how do your plans to mitigate during construction, can you just kind of talk about that? Because I don't remember hearing that. You just talked about, the 2 buildings in the front would go first and then the 3 in the back. I didn't hear you talk about any mitigation.
How we're going to mitigate for construction?
How are you, while things are slowly phased in, iterating, you said there's an iterative plan, right? The first 2 would go first. Not sure about the last 3, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand then, is there anything particular, or I just want to hear about your mitigation as you build. I mean, I just want to hear you talk about that.
So are you referring to like construction sequencing with erosion and sediment controls?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so again, there's no specific tenant. He just wants to get something approved so he can market it. The idea was to build the front 2 buildings first. If there is a lot of activity and we can build these last 3 buildings in the second phase, then we would move on to that portion. I can't really create a phasing plan until we know we have an actual people interested.
You would be coming in then?
I would have to do a
Okay.
subsequent phasing or a subsequent erosion and sediment control plan showing how we're going to break it down. I mean, obviously, the first 2 things that are going to have to happen are the site access drives in those front 2 buildings with the infrastructure around the back of the building, so that whole driveway and the stormwater management basin would all have to get constructed as part of phase 1. The remaining buildings, there's no real need to pave the areas between the buildings. We don't have any buildings there yet.
Yeah.
I use a prime example is I foresee this similar to the commercial industrial center that's over on Cromwell Avenue where the brewery is. At the Stonehill Brewery across from CNG's facility. They built all the infrastructure, and you go out there today, and there's still a foundation sitting in the center of that. And I've been here for 30-some years, we don't want to do that. We'll just build what we need. We'll work the erosion sediment control around it if the commission needs us to come back to represent how we're doing it. But if I had a specific tenant and I could tell you that we're moving in tomorrow and we definitely need to build everything at one time, it'd be a lot easier for me. But we don't. He builds on speculation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Stevens.
Was there a soil, I have obviously the web soil survey information, but was there a soil report prepared for the site that shows the detailed soils that?
Go ahead.
Yes, I embedded that in my wetland assessment, so it describes the soil types.
Okay.
So it's in your typical wetland delineation
Okay,
report.
so we'll get a copy of that?
Yes.
And then, was there any type of report done for the deep test pit data that you could provide us?
Yeah. I thought we included in the stormwater management report, and I also do have the permeability test results that I can provide
Okay,
to you also.
but that would be good to just see
Sure.
depth of models and groundwater and that kind of stuff. And then I think you referred to the wetland assessment, and then we'll be getting a copy of that, plus any planting plans?
Yeah, hopefully I get an answer on the trees for the next one, and I can either say yay or nay on. I would love to salvage some of the trees. Love to. But.
All right, so just those three things, that's my only question.
Commissioner Brown.
No questions.
Vice Chairman Whalen.
No questions.
Secretary Kelly.
Maybe I'll make up for both of you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry we don't have the wetlands assessment yet. I want to know, it's not noted on the plans, how many truck parking spaces there are going to be. I see the 200 are all cars, is that correct?
They're all cars. So again, this is not a facility that you're going to be looking at tractor trailers. This is a facility you're looking at single unit box trucks. The units themselves, when you take a look at these buildings, you'll see like the back buildings are 20,000 square foot, broken into 5,000 square foot each. We're not proposing the large distribution facility where we have a need for tractor trailers. We're proposing a small supplier who has to store product or produce something small on his site has a box truck. We're not accommodating for large tractor trailers. We don't have any parking for large tractor trailers.
So can you tell me even, are there 3 loading bays? I'm looking at the rear.
So, yeah, so basically the area behind each one of the buildings, loading, where it's identified as loading area, that's where the
Each
trucks.
one of those is a bay, the
Correct.
divided, okay, that's great. So, and this sounds like a planning and zoning question, but it ties in to, because I'm concerned about idling. If they're diesel, I don't know if box trucks are typically gas or diesel.
They're both.
Both, okay. So in the wetlands assessment, have you identified species that are supported by this wetlands? Because that leads to my question of idling, drift, and pollution.
We have not, and would the commission desire?
Definitely.
Okay.
We would like to know, especially since you say it's high functioning. To me, high functioning is not only the water conditions, et cetera, but it's also what's it supporting in there for wildlife.
Well,
Okay.
Commissioner Kelly, if I could, I can tell you, considering I live on that wetlands, we get deer, turkeys, bears, all through there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect there's a lot of wildlife usage in that
Yes.
wetland. Yeah.
There's a lot of wildlife.
So then, speaking to the rear of the parking lot, you're saying you're putting a retaining wall. But what is your lighting situation? Are you going to have directed lighting? Is it going to be directed away from the wetlands?
Yeah, we would, yes, we would have, lighting so we don't, with full cutoff fixtures, so we're not dispersing light towards the wetlands or even towards that wooded area. I mean, quite honestly, that back drive aisle does not need to be lit. I'm proposing that we just lighten the parking spaces in front of the building, the loading areas to the back of those buildings. That drive aisle along the north side does not need to be lit, so I can have them eliminate any site lighting from that area.
And last question, we don't have a landscaping plan, I understand, but are you considering berms in the front, such as with burrs across the street, any kind? You said you're outlining,
could.
you're lining it with evergreens or
Yeah,
surround?
we could consider that.
For
I'll
noise,
talk to the owner
pollution.
about it, yeah. I mean, quite honestly, well, the buildings that are being presented here, he's got some preliminary elevations, and they're quite attractive. It's just not your typical steel storage building. He wants to do something a little more upscale on this. So,
Okay.
but we could propose a berm in that area. We do have adequate room.
Yeah, I would ask, and maybe others agree with me, that the aesthetics of it be
I
considered.
agree.
I mean, Brook Street has become,
Right.
it's a thoroughfare, and
Win Stanley's
anything we can do to
project,
help
yeah,
it would
yeah.
be nice.
Burris and Win Stanley's project both had berms, and
All right.
I think it would help complement it, sure.
Okay, great, thank you so much.
Commissioner, are you all set? Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes, thank you.
Looking at this, you scared me. I was like, we just got done talking about parking lots and heat index, and here we go, big parking lot with nothing but development and no green. I was freaking out for a second here. But I'm glad that you're going to be proposing some plantings. I don't know if there's any opportunity to, I know a lot of this is out of the 100-foot review area, but I don't know if there's any way to add a little bit more green to this, a little more LID, a little more low-impact development to it. That would be helpful.
Yeah, so just so you know, technically in the zone, we're allowed to be at 65 impervious coverage. So we're about 54 and a half right now. So we're actually below.
Okay.
Only half the site is impervious coverage.
Okay.
But I could look at incorporating other LAD. Again, a lot of sites we don't have the opportunity to do things. This is one site I do think we have some unique opportunities to do this and some other things.
Yeah, and, as I'm sure you know, and I know Matt knows well, because I do know him from working with Eversource projects together, the buffer is important, and there's a lot of trees being, removed here. It's, in the whole concept of thing, it's not a lot, but if this wetland is a high-quality wetland, we want to protect the trees. So I do want to see, some replantings of trees, even if you can't transplant. I do want to, maybe some diversity, native, as best we can on site. I know there's not really much you can do. I guess the only other question I would have was, since you're saying that they're going to build the front two first and not necessarily the back, and see how it goes kind of thing, I just wanted to understand the alternatives analysis of completely avoiding the 100-foot area. I don't know, because it seems like, well, I don't know, we may not necessarily need it, so then why are we impacting it? I don't know, that's just my thoughts there. I don't know if there's any sort of alternative
I
analysis.
give you some alternatives that we actually looked at for the development and how we ended up where we ended up. I mean, the original proposal was a much larger building. I think we did go before planning and zoning initially just for some feedback, and people got scared.
Okay.
Thinking it was
Anytime
that.
you mention warehouses these days, it's,
Exactly.
I know this is not one of those big box warehouses, but, all right, I mean, as long as you can, we can document that, listen, this is a reduction, and, I think it's good to put it down in writing.
Sure.
I think that's all I got.
Okay. Commissioner O'Connor.
So I see the charts with your impervious coverage, and I just heard what you said. Wondering though, the total parking spaces provided, 253 versus 120 that's required.
So we based it upon a warehouse storage use, which is 1 per 1,000. We don't, again, I hate to keep saying it, but we don't have an actual tenant. I didn't want to underpark this facility. And it's kind of modeled after the one that's on Cromwell Avenue. In the front, things are usually good, but in the back, there's usually parking issues back there. If I get a small shop with a couple, or a few employees in it, and one truck, parking may get it tight. If for some week, what we can do is we can defer some parking, not build them, and if we do have users that are in there that don't need it, My one concern is actually, I mentioned there was a CrossFit operation that's looking to occupy a good portion of one of these buildings. That's a higher intensity use for parking. I just don't want to underpark it. They're one of the tenants in the other development right now. When I go out there, they do use a good portion of the parking. So I didn't want to come into you and commit to something with 120 park spaces and come back later and tell you I don't have enough parking spaces. I think 1 per 1,000 is going to be a little bit late for the type of development we're looking at. So I just wanted to be realistic with you. But we can look at deferring parking, and we don't need it. Believe me, we don't want to spend the money to build it.
Okay, and I'd look forward to seeing the planting plan when it's
Sure.
ready. That's all I have.
What's the dimension from the wall to the wetlands? I don't know if I missed it.
50 feet.
50 feet? Okay. How much, you said you're going to build this, so you build the first 2 buildings first. So how much of the drainage system do you have to build with that?
So I'll need to build basically the front parking area, the drainage in the front parking area, the building, the rear drive aisle with the loading area behind it. There is a drainage system that goes from the front parking area down the west side of the parking lot, all the way to that stormwater management basin. And right now, we do have the middle drive aisle between the front 2 buildings that discharges to one of the stormwater swales between the 2 buildings. So technically, that would need to go into with an outlet into a back portion of the drainage system. If we phase this a little bit differently, we could reconsider that one swale and connect that drainage some other way. But a vast majority of the drainage system is going to get built up front. So basically, the area, what I'm kind of anticipating is the area around buildings I think it's number 3 and 4, that whole paved area, and that portion of the drainage system would not need to go in at this point. But the parking area to the west of building number 5 would have to go in, part of the storm drainage system, to get the water to that infiltration basin out back.
Okay. So the drainage along the eastern access road, you have a way to reroute that so it doesn't, does that go around the whole back?
I would have to reroute it, yes.
Okay. All right.
Good point.
And when you do phase this, I know you said the first 2 buildings, I'm going to ask a question. You're going to build 5 to 4 to 3 in that order and stay away from the retaining wall as long as possible?
Yeah. As you know, retaining wall's not cheap, so yeah, we would stay away from that.
Well, keeps you out of the upland review, so
Correct.
it makes us happier also. Any thought to putting one of those trenches up in the front there?
I could regrade it so it drains off to the south, have a bioretention swale, or an infiltration swale along the front edge of the parking lot. But now if I'm going to incorporate a berm into it also, it's going to be kind of fighting it. I got to play with the grade a little bit. But again, it's opportunities on this property, so I'm gladly entertain anything you think I should add to it. It'd be a good idea. I agree.
And then access to the infiltration basin, is there going to be a gate next to that dumpster between buildings 5 and 4, or will they be accessing around the outside?
They'd be accessing around the outside.
Around the outside?
Yep.
Okay. And then you have the 4-bay on that?
Correct, and it's infiltration, so you need 25% capacity of the stormwater quality because it's infiltration.
Okay. And then there's an emergency spillway?
Yes, there's an emergency spillway. It's it'd be to the east or to the right of the outlet pipe.
Oh, the hexagon. Okay, I got it. I'm all set.
Commissioner Brown?
I've got an easy one and a harder one. The easy one is, can you spec in lighting that's 3,000 or 4,000 maximum? I know you know where I'm going with this. 5K is daylight. We're next to a wetlands. Even with the cutoff, if some animal walks in, it's suddenly in daylight and it resets its body clock. That's the easy one.
Sure.
The tougher one, I'd like to see if you could test the soils for herbicides, insecticides. It is agricultural land. I do understand that we're doing a virtual brownfield by paving it, but when you're working, you're going to be blowing dust everywhere. It'd be good to know what's in that soil before you disturb it. Okay, thanks.
Madam Chairman, one more question. I know you're about to ask something.
Go ahead.
Matt, can you confirm this is outside of NDDB?
A portion of the site is within.
And are you going to get your
Yes.
determination? Okay.
We already talked about that, and I don't know what it is, but I got a pretty good guess because we dealt with it on the subdivision down the road, so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That'll be fun.
That's endangered, National Endangered Database.
No, state.
Yeah, I just have one question. I know you're talking about possibly transplanting some of those evergreens that are there. Are you thinking of putting them on also the,
Along the east, the west, and along the south.
thank you.
Yep.
I live over
I know.
there. Thank you.
Yeah, they'd have to be evergreens. They don't want to put any deciduous there because of the power lines and.
Yeah, and I do agree with Commissioner Brown about checking the soil for pesticides, considering that was Mullane's nursery at one time.
Well, I thought this was gardeners.
Both, I think. Mullane's had some stuff on there
Okay.
towards the end, but before that, it was all gardeners, yes.
May I add to your comment?
Certainly.
That's an interesting point. I know when they put the Creek School in across the street, they had to dig up a
Transport
certain
and
level of.
Yep.
So will you be doing the same thing? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, if it's
We're gonna check.
above a certain level, then we got to meet the criteria. So, yeah, we'd have to do
Okay,
something.
and replacing it then with the topsoil or whatever's needed?
So they redistributed it on site over at the Creek facility.
On-site where they built or
No,
on-site
they moved it
with
to another portion of the site.
with other farmland? But we don't have farmland left over here, do we? This is all being developed.
No, but berms. You can encapsulate it in berms.
Okay, under a certain acceptable level?
Again, I don't want to say what the level, we haven't had tests, so I don't know what the levels are, but if for some reason it is higher, which I don't want to speculate, but in this particular application with the commercial use, it's probably not going to be over the threshold. But I mean, if there is concerns and there is anything in it and there's something we can do with it, a good place to lose it is in berms.
Big berms? A lot of land.
Done it before, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Go ahead,
One
Commissioner
additional
O'Connor.
question. So I'm looking at the, gosh, what plan sheet is this? 3 of 5, 15, 3 of 15. The zoning table, minimum front yard required 50 feet, proposed 120. Now, what I'm about to ask is in direct contradiction to what Commissioner Schweitzer was asking, in order to get a berm in the front. But was there any consideration for scooching the entire thing towards the street line so that we would minimize the impacts, in the upland area?
So again, to make it a successful project, this is going to be broken down into smaller uses. I need to have parking in front of each one of the units. In this zone, I'm not allowed to have parking over the front building line. So I have my front building line setback, which is 50 feet plus the depth of the parking and walks. So that's what's kind of forcing us to be that far back. I don't want to build a building, if it was a large building, a single user, and we could have a parking lot off to the side, it'd be a different situation. But seeing we're looking at multiple users with identification on each one of the fronts, we need to, have this parking in front of the building. So you talked about it before, the only other option is to go for a variance and get a variance on having the parking over the front building line, but it's a self-created hardship. So I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I think 120 is about the max.
Maybe we need to speak to the zoning. Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to table the Brook Street, Rocky Hill LLC construction parking area, portion of building, retaining wall level spreader and grading located at 553, 565, and 595 Brook Street, Assessor's ID 17-04 and 05 and 16-278.
Hey, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll see you next month. That will be at the March 7th meeting. Thank you. And 8th, I'm sorry, 8th, my bad. Got my days mixed up. Okay, item E, And again, Commissioner Stevens will be recusing himself.
Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself because I did flag wetlands on this property also in the past.
Correct,
I think it was
okay.
2003.
That's fine. Thank you. I'm going to have Commissioner Sapaio go ahead and vote in his place. Thank you. Okay, item E, Cisco Connecticut LLC, construction of new access driveway with guardhouse and truck parking located at 1355 Cromwell Avenue, Assessor's ID number 20-009. Thank you.
Good evening. Pete Parent, professional engineer with CHA, representing the applicant. We also have two representatives from Cisco here that could answer any questions about the function of the facility if they come up.
Thank you.
I have a couple of plans I'm going to hand out, just a sheet that wasn't included in the original submission based on a conversation I had with town staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops.
It's okay with you folks, I'm going to go low tech.
Sure, but can you, yeah, that's fine. But could you use the handheld microphone, please? Thank you. So those that are watching on TV can also hear you. Thank you.
So for anyone that might not be familiar with the project site, we're located on the very southwest corner of town along 91 and on the Cromwell border.
Does that affect tonight? I don't even know, but the details may be irrelevant if they change the access point.
So what's being proposed currently is just a new access drive and some tractor-trailer truck parking to take some of the pressure off of Inwood Drive that provides access to the site currently. So the driveway is in line with the existing parking. We'd be proposing a detention basin along the edge of it, in between the parking and the property line. The delineated on-site wetlands are all hundreds of feet away from what we're currently proposing. The question that was raised when I submitted the application with town staff was on the adjacent property. The town's wetland mapping shows a wetland on the adjacent property here. So we provided this aerial overlay just to kind of give you folks some context of what's going on in that property. The vast majority of that property is currently developed and maintained as a recreation facility with an agricultural use. They have a corn maze you can see in the picture, some slides, a trampoline area, and a couple of storage buildings. The water course that is associated with this wetland actually accepts the current drainage system from Cisco's existing property that overflows into a stream channel that runs, you can kind of see it, a little bit serpentine, and then parallel with 91, and then goes into the median of 91 around this location. So our area where we could potentially be in an upland review area of that wetland is really this upper corner of the proposed drive. We're more than 100 feet here, even if this little nose was wetland. So this is our area of development. So just to look at what we're actually planning to do on a little bit larger scale here, we'd be coming in off of County Lawn Drive, coming down to a low point, discharging into our basin, and then we've got a basically fairly level drive here with a series of highs and lows to create low points for drainage. Each one of these basins, drains into this larger detention swale. The detention swale has an under drain and then would overtop into a double catch basin that drains into the remainder of Cisco's on-site drainage system. We are proposing a box culvert here to cross that drainage swale. But other than that, it's just very straightforward access driveway with some parking on it. And then there is a proposed guard shack here that's going to be requiring electrical and sewer from Cromwell, and then we'd be tying the water in from an existing building on site. That's kind of the project in a nutshell. Happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Okay, let's go ahead, start the other end, Commissioner Schweitzer.
Is there any intention to flag the wetlands out there?
We haven't been in touch with the neighboring property owner to have them flagged.
Okay. And that driveway is two-way access?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, Commissioner O'Connor.
I don't have any questions right now.
Okay.
So you haven't been in touch with the farm here, because every Halloween I go here and we park in this parking lot. Are we still going to be able to go across?
Are you saying?
Are we still going to be able to park here and go across your driveway to the?
I can't answer that question.
Okay. As being on this property, I can tell you that the ground is soggy in certain places, and there's definitely wetlands back in that corner. So I would recommend seeing if you can find out some wetlands data. I don't know if they want it flagged, because they do a lot of stuff on their property for, Halloween time. But yeah, okay, well, I was just curious about that. So you are putting additional impervious with the driveway. I'm sorry, are you doing any sort of swales or anything like that too?
Yeah, so we've got that detention swale that runs along the western edge there.
Sorry, I was thinking about my kids playing. I was like, oh yeah, we were in that maze. Okay, all right, that's all for me.
Okay, Secretary Kelly?
Yes, I know, I'm familiar with where Cisco is at the end of Inwood, and I'm just curious as to why you can't go in through Inwood, why you're doing all of this.
So I believe that the issue is twofold. There's currently some traffic issues that are created by the trucks that go into Inwood, and there's also some future very conceptual potential for further development of that lot, but it's...
Oh, it might be something we can't... Oh, so what kind of traffic is going to be using this access road? Truck traffic?
It would be...
Like the big Cisco reefers and such?
Yes, the delivery trucks that come in for the warehouse currently through Inwood.
They come in through Inwood right now.
Yeah.
So there are complaints, there are whatever issues on Inwood, and they want you to do something different.
Right.
Madam Chair, if I may interject.
Yes, go ahead.
This is actually kind of almost coming from the town. Inwood Road is become I don't know if you've ever been on it. It's upwards of 40 feet paved, and it's become an issue. Not all these buildings are occupied, but it's become an issue because there's days that they staged up to 30 trucks, reefer trucks on this road, double parked, so people can't get in and out of their businesses.
Okay.
So it was something that was broached, I believe, with Cisco from the town as, can you find an alternative to get this bottleneck off the road to aid the other vendors. So, this is their solution so far.
Okay.
There's already a ton of trucks that come down here for the Amazon facility.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your trucks will potentially be parking on this access road as they await open bays and whatever?
Correct. So this is actually 2 lanes coming in and 1 lane coming out. So there's staging area on this drive as well as the parking that's on the drive.
So we're going to have the idling issue and the diesel issue and...
We can certainly, yeah.
Well, you can't change it if you're going to use it with the trucks. It's not... Amazon is just down the road from there, and Lord knows how much idling goes on over there. I've been in through there. I ride my bike in that area, and it's overwhelming. All right, I guess I don't have any other questions, but I agree that we should know some more wetlands information here or contact that owner, even if there's a potential sale here, whatever. This is theoretically going to go through first, so we should know that by now, first. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Whalen?
How many trucks are you planning on parking there? How many spots, do you know?
I believe we have 15 trailer spots here, and then, staging on the road, it could probably hold 6 or 7, waiting to get in, kind of a thing.
Gas masks.
Okay. We're surmising that this is in the 100-foot wetland review area?
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, the wetlands that are delineated on site were well outside of the 100-foot, but this area here that was addressed when I had submitted the application originally, it was concerned that, we may be within that 100-foot buffer on that.
But we have no idea how many feet were in it.
Correct, yeah.
I'd be more comfortable also if you could try to flag the wetlands and give us a more accurate idea how many feet we're in and where it is, if that's something that you could look into.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Sampaio, anything?
I do. You said it's going to be 2 lanes going in and 1 coming out, correct?
Correct.
And then you have all these parking spots for the trucks.
Yep.
Are those going to be for trucks that are going to be parked there waiting to go in, or just parked there, and just the ones that are, the 2 ones that are going in are the ones that are going to wait till a bay to open up?
The truck parking would be open for both purposes, these to stage vehicles that are waiting to go in, or if for whatever reason somebody needed to park there for, another reason.
That's all I have.
Anything, nothing else? Okay.
Madam Chair, I just want to point
Sure.
out the
Go ahead. Yes.
letter that we received late this afternoon from the town of Cromwell. It was sent to the town manager and was in regards to the wetlands. Yeah, we were CC'd on it as well. In regards to the application here before the commission tonight, as well as the planning and zoning application, requesting that we delay any action until Cromwell takes action on the application that was submitted there. It states that Cromwell has expressed concern with the location of the driveway, interfering with the driveway of Amazon and the Public Works garage. And this was the letter I provided you. When
Yep, yeah, I haven't seen the letter. I didn't
very
see
late
comments
this
regarding
afternoon.
location of the driveway, so
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah, so I just wanted to state that for the record.
Sure.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Dave. Thank you. And we have lost Commissioner Brown, so there he is. You okay? No questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, all right. Can, any other further questions?
Yeah, just trying to decipher this letter from the town of Cromwell. They're taking action at March 7? Is that what I'm understanding?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
And our next meeting is the 8th, and
Yes.
we do have to table tonight, so, okay. So it's not really going to impact us?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, can I go ahead and get a motion, please?
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion regarding application for permit for Cisco Connecticut LLC, construction of new access driveway with guardhouse and truck parking located at 1355 Cromwell Avenue, Assessor's ID number 20-009. I make a motion to table till the March meeting.
Thank you. Can I get a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay. We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is action taken, minutes for approval. Can I get a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I have a edit that's needed.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Oh,
Then discuss.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Sorry.
I have a second. Can I, discussion?
Yeah, on page 2, second paragraph, it says the permanent direct wetland impacts a total of 22 square feet. I think that should be 220 square feet.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? There are none. Okay. All in favor of the amended minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Nope, okay. Those are passed. Okay, discussion. Plan of Conservation and Development, the Plan Implementation Committee. Commissioner Kelly?
Yeah, we had a meeting that covered a range of topics from sidewalks, bike lanes. We had a report on the new Sustainable Rocky Hill Commission, task force, which is working towards our sustainable accreditation with the state. So it was a broad meeting. It seems we're moving along, having regular meetings, and it was very productive. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Status report, various projects.
As you've probably noticed, most of the Ames site has been demolished. That's moving along very well. And also the former Dakota's Steakhouse is about 90% demolished now, and they will be proceeding with construction. That's about all I have to report.
Very good. Do we have any update on the foundry?
Oh, does the steakhouse?
I have no
No?
update at this
How
time.
about the landfill? Nope, okay.
I actually do have sort of related, 45 Evans Road. It's actually 35, 45, 55, I think it is, all Evans Road. It's the Truly property at the end of
Yeah.
Evans. We went out for a request for qualifications proposal for a consultant to do environmental phase 1, 2, 3 testing. And those were returned, and we're evaluating them. So they're looking for a brownfields grant. Well, we have a brownfields grant, so they're looking to clean it up and possibly do something down there.
Okay, what is the condition of the bank there?
The bank is, I was out there a couple weeks ago on a site walk. It is vegetated. The owner tells me he's still having somebody come and look at it once a year. I don't know. I mean, I think that was a condition of the permit. We should probably go check that and get that report.
Yep, okay, great, thank you. Open space?
I guess you saw the update on Straska.
Yeah, it's true, yep. Legislation?
Yeah. As you might recall, excuse me, January 1 of this year, a new legislation took effect that all members on planning and zoning, all the boards and commissions have to be, the land use boards need to take like continuing education type of courses. And we're trying to get you some courses, some options. I know Wesleyan usually does something once a year. We're trying to get it in the budget so we can fund it, because some of these are free, some of these they charge. So, and is it four courses, I believe?
Four hours are required by the end of next year. And currently, this year, there will be one at Wesleyan, live and in person. That's a full day on a Saturday. I'm not sure if that's going to be offered virtually as well as it was done virtually during COVID. There are also two programs, the advanced land use and the basic course, and then the advanced land use. Those are two separate 4-hour programs. So to meet the 4-hour requirement, you'd have to do at least the basic, and we end up doing both because they're complete sessions. Those programs are also available for free, recorded. It's not clear to me how we account for that, other than a statement from a commission member saying that they participated in that. If you're watching a recorded session, there's no real answer for that yet.
Right.
They don't get a certificate or anything at the end?
Well, for the live ones you do, but for watching the recorded ones, you would not be able to ask questions should you have questions. And I don't know if you have to log in and they would generate a certificate, by logging in, logging out. It's unclear.
Yeah, I know I emailed like everyone a link that had a bunch of stuff. I can
send out an email with the links. I've sent them out for the zoning board of appeals.
And there's also certain components you have to have. I think one of them is the affordable housing. I believe, yeah. So you have to have that.
So I went onto the Yukon website and started the one for wetlands. That's the 8-hour one. I had an issue with logging back in to complete, having to start from the beginning again. So I'm trying to work through that. I'll share any information with the commission, whoever is interested. But it sounds like that one, which is free, might be the other ones
Yes,
are
yeah.
mandatory?
The other ones are geared more towards zoning.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But the way the statute's written is all land use commissions meet. But yes, the DEP course that's online should be able to stop it and restart it, and it depends, to do as much as you want to do at one time, if you want to do
Conceptually.
two segments or whatever.
I have a comment to that. Did anybody else get an email from Deep about a course that's being archived on February 22nd, so we have to take it, or do the one through 23? I took the 8 hours online last year, and I sent this woman a copy of the certificate, and she said, okay, you're all set. I think that's good for this year now. Did anybody take that? I think Leslie took it. I think she talked about taking it.
Trying to look into it some more.
Yeah, I'll
I mean,
look
this is
into
all
this.
new to all of us. It just took
Yeah,
effect J1, January 1.
Yeah, I completed it as well, so it should be good, but I also had to do the other ones.
All of them, okay.
Okay.
I do it in pieces, you know.
Yeah, if we can get more information on that, appreciate it.
A lot of
Okay.
it's through the Yukon, the Clear Pro website.
Okay, all right. Conferences?
I don't have anything
Nothing?
available right now.
Okay, correspondence and communications?
Other than the letter from Cromwell, I have no other communications.
Okay, other business? Nothing? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Second it?
Who,